Just over my left shoulder is Casemates Square, Gibraltar. This is the site of one of the most famous military campaigns in all of Gibraltar's history. Just after the 1700 turn of the century, British troops were camped in this square and they were defending themselves from the French and the Spanish on either side. And they held out here for 4 years. And once that 4 years were up in 1713, the Treaty of Utrecht was signed, which ceded the territory of Gibraltar and Casemates Square as you have it now to the British. And since then, for over, I suppose, the bones of 300 years now, Gibraltar has been a British overseas territory, and it's allowed squares like Casemates Square here in front of me to develop as it is today, with so many different cuisines, betting shops, fish and chip shops, and there's Italian restaurants and so much more. But this little rock, and I don't think you can see it from the view here, has been the subject of so many military campaigns because of its strategic importance. Located at the very southern tip of Europe, where the Strait of Gibraltar is most narrow. It's only 14 kilometres from the tip of Gibraltar to the top of North Africa. And today we're going to explore what makes Gibraltar special and some of the main sites in the town or city as you have it today.
My name is David Cotter. I travel to some of the world's most geopolitically interesting places to understand why they matter. Some places are important because of culture, some because of money, and others because of geography. This is Gibraltar, just 6 kilometres of land, but fought over for more than 300 years. Empires rose, treaties signed, borders were drawn, and this rock stayed exactly where it is. Gibraltar sits at the narrowest point between Europe and Africa. 14 kilometres of water separate 2 continents, and almost everything moving between the Atlantic Ocean and the Mediterranean has to pass through here. That's why this place is worth defending, that's why it was besieged, and that's why it's still politically awkward today. In this video I'm exploring what makes Gibraltar the UK's most valuable rock, not as a tourist destination but as a strategic one. Why this place mattered to empires, why it still matters to Europe, and what it's like to live inside a border that history never fully resolved.
Welcome to Algecaris, Spain, port, and I'm supposed to be on a ferry to Ceuta right now. Unfortunately, because of the weather, as you can tell, it's absolutely shocking, it's terrible. So I'm having to switch around my plans, and hopefully I'll be able to get to Ceuta tomorrow. But for today, plans altered, plans switched, can't let it get us down. We're going to go to Gibraltar. So I'm going to check out bus prices and I'm going to check out Uber prices, and from there I'm going to see if I can get to the overseas territory of Gibraltar. So we're waiting here in the Algecaris bus station, and we're going to La Linea, which is the town outside of Gibraltar, and from there we're going to cross in. But yeah, I missed the last bus because there was a fucking guy at the counter that was just taking so long. He was there for fucking 10 minutes, I don't know what he was doing, and he just moved as the bus was taking off. Fucking hell. Anyway, we move. So next stop will be Gibraltar on one of these buses, I think. Okay, so I've landed here just in Linea De la Conscepion, which is the last Spanish town before Gibraltar. The weather's still kind of shit here, and the bus was, as you can see, this is when you get to Spain, the southern tip of Spain, the last place before Africa. But I'm heading for the Rock of Gibraltar, so I'm going to have to do a border check for the rock, well, to get into Gibraltar. So let's just see some things here and see what it's like to try and get in. I don't see any problems, or I don't envisage any problems, but let's see anyways. Okay, so just up ahead I think is where we go. You can see the Spanish flag And you can see on the other side is the flag of Gibraltar and the flag of the United Kingdom, and of course the big limestone monolith that is the Rock of Gibraltar, the most famous probably rock after Dwayne Johnson in the world. There it is. Maybe more famous than Dwayne Johnson, I'm not sure. The passenger entrances. So yeah, let's go through the border. So look here, just over here, so that is actually the airport in Gibraltar, and that was the passport check. It was really quick, just automatic, put the passport in, slide it in, and it accepted it right away. There was no bag checks or anything like that. Well, there haven't been so far, there might be further up, but it says that I'm in Gibraltar now. So I'm officially in the UK overseas territory of Gibraltar. And it has its own airport, which is over there. And I think we're going to be passing the runway. We're going to be passing the runway down here, I think. So it's quite busy at the border, there's a lot of cars, but this is what it looks like here. So where we're going now, we're going to cross the actual airport runway, so it must be the only runway in the world that you actually pedestrians can cross. And it is an international runway, so there's flights coming from mostly the UK. But yeah, look at this, St. Christopher's Gate. So we're going to cross an actual runway, and here it is. Look at this, fairly strong winds, good view of the rock, apartment blocks up here to my left. It's pretty cool. I'm going to have to take off the hat because it's a little bit blowing here. So just going to take this in because I don't envisage that I'll be walking across too many runways ever again. Algecaris Port, where we came from, where I'm staying, which is very, very, very cool. Apologies for the noise. To the rock, airport over here, and in Algecaris Port, the more industrial sides of the city over here. You can see the ferries, they'll be going to Kuwait, North Africa, and look here, training pitch is just here, and yeah, very interesting. Right, so we're walking down the main street here, well, not the main street yet, sorry, it's the main artery towards the main street. It's called Winston Churchill Avenue, of course, because of the pride that Winston Churchill brought to the great nation of the UK. Or is the UK is not classed as a nation, I don't think. I don't know what you'd call it here. So I think we're going, yeah, there's signposts up here for the city centre, so let's follow these. So I don't know if the camera's picking this up, but up there in the actual rock you can see like little pockets up there. They look like some sort of defensive mechanism where they'd peek cannons out of. I'm not sure if that's what it is, but like we know that this was a fortress back in the day, and you can see the ruins of a fortress up on the actual rock itself. So that might be the function, I don't know, I'm just guessing. And you can see there's like walls built down through the rock itself here as well, and kind of like little turret towers, kind of almost. I hope I'm using the right terminology, I don't really know, but Yeah, very cool, very, very cool. I noticed the cars have English regs on them. For the most part anyway, they look English, they don't look Spanish. So, just a small little nugget of information there. A lot of construction work being done. So Gibraltar, the overseas UK territory, definitely has UK weather today. It's absolutely pissing and it's really windy. And I was supposed to be in Ceuta today, but the ferry was cancelled, so I had to pivot and come here. But yeah, so Gibraltar, like it's a tiny little spot. It's only 6 kilometres squared, and there's only 30,000 people living here. So we're going to have a look at why is this a UK overseas territory? Why is it not Spanish? It's literally on the country of Spain's territory, but it's an UK overseas territory. So yeah, and what makes it so strategically valuable. So yeah, we're going to have a look at all these places that make Gibraltar what it is. So there's massive blocks of apartments here, and they're quite expensive to stay in. I was gonna stay here for a night, but it was just way more expensive than staying in Algecaris. But yeah, probably servicing a lot of the financial services people that live here. Look down here, just over here in this courtyard. It's like the shopping street, or the main street. So we're gonna have a look down here. You can smell the fish and chips. I'm not even joking, you can smell the fish and chips up here. You can see the Burger Kings and stuff like that. Now they're not out of place in a Spanish city either, but let's go see if there's more of an English feel. You can see there's 2 kids down there eating their fish and chips. It's Taco Bell. Okay, let's have a look. So we have our red telephone boxes you would get in London or any other UK city. I expect a lot of UK isms in Gibraltar, and we're going to head down the main street now. Shopping centre, the Union Jack shop. Yeah, this looks more British than it does Spanish, just on this piece anyway. Your usual high street shops here, and actually British banks, not West. So Gibraltar was actually known as, throughout antiquity, as Mons Cape, or the Pillars of Hercules, and it was even a big strategic point back in those days as it passed from Phoenicians, the Islamic rule, and until the Dutch Anglo kind of war that I explained earlier in the video up at Casemates Square. Because it's such a narrow strip, it's so strategically important from a geopolitical standpoint, because whoever controls this small slither of land also controls what goes through it. And that's why it was so important for the UK back then as a maritime power to control this area of land, and since then they've never given it up. But look at this street. You could be walking down any high street in London or Manchester and not know the difference. That was probably the motto back in 1713. We shall not surrender. So Gibraltar itself is actually an overseas territory with independence more or less to govern itself, apart from two different areas. So the foreign policy is aligned with the UK's, and military. There is actually military bases here on the rock somewhere. I'm going to shoot up this side street. Now it is still an overseas territory belonging to the United Kingdom, but it's self-governing. It's like an autonomous region elsewhere. So yeah, there is also the only wild monkey population here on the island. I don't know if I'm going to see them because I don't know if I'll have time to climb up to the top of the rock, but we'll give it a good try anyway. So I'm heading up to kind of the base of the rock, which is over 400 meters tall. It's a big limestone monolith just peeking up out here. So we're kind of crawling up towards the base of it here, and there's loads of houses built on these hills, and there's a good incline up. They didn't have to call a road after me. No chivados, no pigs. I presume that means police. So I'm just outside the ruins of the Moorish castle on the lower rock, and it's not very accessible really. It's like there's just steps all over the place, but there's the castle and its defensive mechanism, and you can see all these kind of towers with little slits, and there's actually cannons up there as well. Now they're probably old decommissioned cannons, but nevertheless they show you what the rock would have been utilised for. I mean, it's an unbelievable vantage point, 430 metres high. You get to look out over the whole strait. You have the industrial areas. You have Algecaris over here on the left. I can't remember what the name of this point is here in front of us, but the area where I walked across earlier, Gibraltar Airport, it's right down there. So you can see that. Coming into the town here is Winston Churchill Avenue, and then as you get further down, somewhere around, I'm just trying to get my bearings from up here now, somewhere around over here behind that apartment block, that's where the main street starts. But yeah, it's a very cool place. You kind of think that some of the places here in Europe aren't that interesting, but if you kind of go look for them, there's good geopolitics angles, and especially here, like part of the UK on mainland Spain, and so strategic, and like it's a massive advantage for the United Kingdom, this place. So, and it's just generally cool. I mean, I'm probably never going to walk across a runway to enter somewhere again unless I return here. But yeah, look. I've also just noticed, and I don't know if the cannon can pick it up, but down here in front of me there's little holes in the wall and there's cannons pointing out of it. So everything here is history. It's so historical. Everything is just telling its story. One of defense, one of strategy, one of victory as well, I suppose. We won't say that too loud because I'm Irish, but yeah, there you go. There it is. Savage spot. So just looking at this Church of England style church here, there's actually, like, because there's so many different influences here and it's been passed down through so many different empires, Gibraltar is like a lot of religious differences. So there's a lot of North African Muslims, there's a lot of Catholics from the Spanish and the Portuguese when they used to own it. Of course there's Protestants from the English and the Dutch, and there's also a lot of Jewish people here. I actually saw a lot of people with the Jewish skull cap, or I'm not sure of the proper name for it. But yeah, you've a whole lot of different religious influences going on here, and they seem to all get on pretty well, which is good. And it just reminds you that things can work like that as well. Oh, there's a nice street here actually. I'm just gonna, it's a cool, colourful street. Let's have a look. Look at this. It's quite a cool street. Nice painted steps. So you have EUR, I think. It's hard to see it, and obviously you have the Union Jack painted on the steps, and an arrow saying apes up here. So you have to pay €18 to go to the, or £18 to go up to the upper rock, and I don't think I'm gonna part with that today because I've other things I want to see. But we'll go up a bit further and we'll see how far we can get. So I'm on what's called the Devil's Gap path. Oh cool, you can see a naval vessel just out there in the harbour. So that would be obviously a British vessel because of the overseas territory. Very strategic place to have it. You get a good view of what's going on in the city from down here. You can see kind of private yachts down here. Look at this Devil's Gap battery up on the top of or near the top of the Rock of Gibraltar. Look in here. They're prison cells, so you can imagine them just keeping criminals in here. It's probably used for drinking nowadays, as is with all these kind of places. They've all just been overtaken by kind of homeless people. Let's walk up a bit further as I'm airing out my back, which is why I have this here. My back is sweating. I can never escape it. Okay, so what do we have up here? Another lookout point. Whoa! Look at this. That's just a massive defensive mechanism. And another one over here. Let's have a look. Something tells me they were very safe with these up here anyway. 1902. You can imagine these just firing off the cliff. Absolutely insane. I wonder what distance they'd fire. They'd have to fire out beyond the port there anyway to be any use. Imagine the noise that they'd make when they're firing. That's mad. So Gibraltar, regardless of its size, it's quite successful. It's similar to a lot of the other small micro-states in Europe, your Luxembourgs and Ireland to an extent. They have very high GDP because there's a lot of FDI, foreign direct investment. A lot of what's based in Gibraltar here is financial services, gambling, online gambling, and I suppose tourism as well. Probably, and I don't know this, but I'm just speculating, financial services are probably based here because there's better access to European markets and Spanish markets. They probably have some beneficial rules and regulations as opposed to banks situated actually on the UK. So similar to Ireland with its corporation tax, that's how it gets a lot of the European headquarters for big tech companies and big American pharmaceutical companies to base themselves in Ireland. It's the same. I'm guessing there's some tax loophole for online gambling and things like that for them to base themselves out of here, because the access to talent is probably far less than it would be in the UK itself. But yeah, I'm going to stop talking because I'm going to kill myself coming down here if I don't look where I'm going. So we've come down off the mountain a bit, just got down into flatter ground. You can see kind of the nice, more typical Spanish style of housing with the Venetian kind of blinds on the wall. More Spanish style of frontal facade as well even. It's not very Georgian or Orwellian style or Victorian style housing. It doesn't have the red brick that you'd associate with more houses in the United Kingdom. Probably due to building materials and stuff, although I do see a red brick chimney over there, so it's not like they didn't have it, but maybe the Spanish influence was just too strong to completely quell. What's interesting as well is that even though it's a UK overseas territory, another rule that they keep more in line with Spain and the rest of Europe is they don't drive on the right hand side, or they do drive on the right hand side of the road. So yeah, so just to not have to deal with the inconvenience of switching lanes as you cross the border, they've kept it the same, and to be honest I think that's a sensible decision. So yeah, we're moving on. This is what the scene looks like. Been walking about 25 minutes now, and it's just been kind of intermittently raining, heavier, less heavy, but the views are really cool, and I'm enjoying myself. And look, a Union Jack. I told you earlier that there's a lot of different religions here in Gibraltar. Right in front of me you have probably what is the main mosque on the island. I haven't seen any other ones, and I'm sure there are more. Right now there's quite a nice mosque in front of us. The typical tower with the half moon at the top. And I haven't heard any calling to prayer, so maybe that's going to happen. And then the dome in the middle and the typical Arabic type of or Islamic type of decor on the outside. But yeah, very nice. Harmony is what I call that. And there's a lighthouse. The most southern point of all of Europe, the closest point to the African continent. This is Europa Point. This is Europa Lighthouse, and this is the Upper Gibraltar Rock. So this area right here can tell you exactly why Gibraltar is so valuable and why it was so valuable to the British back in the day. Look up there and the height. So that's 432 meters up. That gives you vantage. The distance between here and Africa, 14 kilometres. That's the narrowest point. Once you have all of that, that's the key. Back 300-400 years ago, like it is today, you're hearing nowadays with USA, Russia, China. Back 300 and 400 years ago, it was Spain, it was Portugal, it was the United Kingdom, and it was the Dutch were the big maritime powers in the world. Of course, there was the Eastern ones, the Chinese and the Japanese, but for Europe's sake and Africa's sake, these were the big maritime powers. And in this slither between mainland Europe at the south of Spain and the north of Africa in Morocco, or Ceuta, which is the Spanish enclave, you could say, at the top of North Africa, you want to control the passageways that lead to the east, which is, once you pass that Mediterranean block, the Strait of Gibraltar, you have access to the Middle East, you have access to North Africa, and you therefore have access to Asia as well. So you have so much connectivity, and that was the name of the game. Not only that, but at this point here, you can see absolutely everything. You can see absolutely everything up there. You can defend absolutely everything from above. So if it's easier to shoot down than to shoot up. So if you're pointing a cannon down from up there, it's easier. Now I hope the sound isn't too bad. You can control trade. Okay, so anything that passes through here, once you're a naval power, you can control. Between here, it's as good as you will get here. So you can understand why the British wanted it. Now, was it right that they got it? That's history. There's them tales throughout history. But one thing is for sure, that the British were the biggest maritime power in the world. They had the most, they had the strongest fleet, they had the best weaponry, and they were able to come to mainland Spain here and take this rock at the bottom away from empires that were surrounding it. And that just goes to show the UK way. It's way too windy here. But there you have it, the Rock of Gibraltar, why it's so important. What a spot, what a geopolitical heaven of a spot to cover. So the mosque is here. I'm going to see if I can walk through this tunnel, because as you can see, the weather's getting shit. So looks like I can. And so we're going straight into the bowels of the rock. So there's some wind in here, so it's kind of creating a vacuum out the other end. And this is what it looks like, and I can hear my voice is absolutely just echoing down here. So very cool. Do you know what? Because limestone is such a porous rock, this is just teeming down rain as much. It's just not as windy, so it's a bit more pleasant. As you can see here, the amount of rain that's just dropping down is absolutely cruel, and the ground is drenched, and in certain parts it's worse. So I presume that's just coming through the porous areas of the actual limestone itself. I might be completely wrong, but I do know that there's loads of caves in and around the actual in the rock itself, and the British built tunnels in the rock. Jesus Christ, look at this. It's like a waterfall. I have to step out onto the road for that now, because no way am I going walking under that. Although I could try out my new jacket, make sure that it's waterproof. Well, my pants isn't. So look at this beach club, just completely abandoned because it's pissing rain and no one else is out here except me, because I'm a dumbass. Yeah, look at this. What is going on? You come to Spain for warm weather, or Gibraltar, I better get it right, the UK. You come to the UK for warm weather and you get nothing of the sort. Just an abandoned beach club. I'd say these outdoor swimming pools would be very nice though in the warm weather. Sitting out here, sea there, and over on this side, outdoor swimming pools here. I'm not sure if they're salt water or if they're fresh water, but they'd still be refreshing either way. But the weather has definitely turned a bit wetter now, but nonetheless, it's still, you know, it's fine. Once you have a good jacket, you can make these things work. This street is like a blend between Spain and the UK. Gibraltar International Bank. And then some shops here, like a convenience store, or is it a tourist shop? It's a tourist shop. And I'm heading back onto the main street up here now any second, and you can see the rush hour traffic is kind of starting to lock up Gibraltar's small streets a bit. It's probably close to 5 o'clock in the evening now. So yeah, things are getting busy. People are leaving work, collecting kids from school. And I need to go get something to eat. Much calmer here on the way back than on the way over, but we'll see it more now once we get out onto the main runway part. But jeez, it was windy on the way over, and yeah, we're leaving Gibraltar. It was a really cool experience, to be honest. Very British, UK feel, a lot of Spanish influence, of course, as you'd imagine, being on the Spanish mainland. And a lot of Spanish speakers. And look at this. This is just, it's just so cool that you're walking across the international runway. Although, would it be called international if the only flights that come into it are from the United Kingdom? I don't know. But yeah, probably useful for the Royal Air Force and stuff as well. As I can see up there, their badge on that building there. But yeah, no planes pulled in at the moment.